Welcome, everybody. This is Scott at Vegas Horse Pools. Just getting together for another What Would Fats Do? But one thing I want to talk about before we get to Fats here, the legend will give us his thoughts on about three games. I'm getting flooded with Spank Odds support calls, and I want to see if I can maybe help everybody with those real quick. First question I'm getting on Spank Odds is if you click on you see the football right up here in the top. If you'll right click on football and you go to manage, you're able to select college football, NFL, Canadian football, Australian football is even running right now. Also, this is where you get the props. This is where you get the extra games. This is where you get the added games. And this is where you get in play. That includes series prices only for Major League Baseball series. But that's the number one call I'm getting this week. Everybody's trying to get ready for the props in the NFL. We just posted the props from Pinnacle this morning. So you can go ahead and take a look at those. And with no further waiting here, we have Fats on board to give us his thoughts on three games today in the NFL. Fats, would you like to open up with any thoughts?
Yeah, this is our segment here is called "What Would Fats Do," and now we've done 2 episodes on college, and now you've called me to do a couple of NFL games. So the first thing I want to let everybody know is about what Fats is going to do is he's going to change his phone number so Scotty can't call him anymore. But anyway, while I still have the same number, Scotty has some NFL games he would like me to discuss, and I will do my best. I'm going to try and keep it brief because it's the NFL and it's week 1. So that's the running theme upcoming.
And also, if we have a few minutes at the end, I'd like to talk about the most important game of the weekend. If we have just a few minutes,
when we're done, we will go back and revisit the infamous Colorado-Nebraska game.
Right, the most important game.
Even more movement, and I will be revising what Fats said he would do to what Fats will do now.
Perfect. Well, we've got 3 games, and I'm going to give everybody kind of a guess what the 3 games we're going to talk about are. My buddy Jacob really wants you to talk about this Tampa game. But let's start at the very top. Game number 455, the Houston Texans. They're a pretty big dog in this game. What are you seeing on the board today, Fats?
Well, first of all, the Ravens are popular. Are probably going to be the most popular pick this week in survivor pools because they're the biggest favorite on the board. This game kind of opened 9.5 and went to 10, and now it's going back to 9.5, and it's 9 at Circa, and Pinnacle is at +10, -20, which, by the way, is the equivalent of 9.5, really. Because that's just buying a half a point from 9.5 to 10. Sports 411 is +9.5 -$1.13, so they're even pushing more towards the 9. And there's not a big difference between 9 and 9.5. The number of pennies between the two is almost negligible. I mean, it's something, but it's nothing to be excited about. So, I mean, with Circa at a solid 9, and this would be a game where the only thing I would do with this game would be I would take 10 if I still could find a 10. I would take 10. I would do it with extreme caution because it's likely the public may still come in and play Baltimore. And on Sunday, this game could be right back to 10 everywhere like it was earlier in the week. Another reason the public may come on Baltimore is because Baltimore has a pretty good record against first-time this coach for Baltimore has a pretty good record against first-time starters, which the Houston quarterback is making his debut. So at this point, gun to my head, and I saw a 10, I'd probably take a taste. I wouldn't be in love with it. It's week 1. You really don't know what's going to happen. I really think Baltimore's going to be a well-oiled machine this year. Houston has some positives. I think their running back is good. Their is solid, and their Pierce, the running back, and I think their tight end Schultz is solid, in that he'll get a lot of, the quarterback will rely on him for a lot of checkdowns and stuff like that. So, I mean, Houston could play, if the quarterback plays an error-free game, Houston could cover this easily. Could they win it outright? It's the NFL. They certainly could. Not likely, but stranger things have happened. Last year, week 1, half of the Circus Survivor field, 60% of the field got eliminated because there were a lot of upsets similar to this one. So I would take Houston plus 10 with great caution here. And if the game went back up to 10, I would probably want to just get off it and be neutral.
Okay, well, since you said 9.5 is basically the same as a plus 10 at a minus 120, take a look at South Point. That's one of my favorite books with Chris Andrews. If those are the same, it looks like the play might be at South Point at the plus 9.5. Do you see that?
Well, no. Plus 9.5 is, when I say plus 9.5, is the same as plus 10 minus 20, is because you can buy a half a point from 9.5 to plus 10 minus 20. That's why I said they're the same.
Oh, okay. So you'd still prefer the 10 to the 9.5, even.
Well, I would no. I would never. I wouldn't take the. I would take. I'm talking about 10 flat. I'm not. I wouldn't take the 10 minus 20.
Oh, you wouldn't take it at all.
Okay. If I found the 10 at minus $1.10, I would bet it, because it's, there's value in it, but I would be very cautious that the line might come back up, and
I understand.
I'd be prepared to bail if I had to.
Okay,
right now, if you took plus 10 minus $1.10 and you didn't like it, worse, you could get off if you wanted to not risk any juice and lay minus 10 plus 09 at Pinnacle, and so you're on the hook for a penny half the time, which is negligible for most people. So,
gotcha.
So basically, or look at it like this: Pinnacle's saying, "Hey, we don't mind taking Houston plus 10 minus 09. So why would you be worried about taking Houston plus 10 minus 10? You're basically betting a penny worse than what Pinnacle is willing to bet." So
I got you. So the bottom line in this game is you're really looking for a plus 10 minus 110. Which
plus 10 minus 110. Yeah. If I'm looking for juice, usually if I say a number, it's minus $1.10 unless I specify otherwise.
Gotcha. Okay, so right now we're just kind of watching the market, but we're watching for a plus 10 minus 110. You want to slide down and take a look at that Tampa game?
Yeah, and by the way, if a 10 start popping up, then my Fats would not take the 10. I'm saying where the market sits right now, if you find a 10 somewhere, it's worth grabbing. There may still be a few 10s out there lingering in certain books, but I wouldn't. But if 10s start popping up, I would say, oh well, Fats said there was value in plus 10. Well, if the 10s start popping up, that value is diminishing because there's somebody betting the other side.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. So maybe you'll have a slow-moving book that's still at a plus 10 then.
Right. You want to bet a stale 10.
A stale 10. Gotcha.
Right. In general, when I say what would I do and I put a number out there, I'm generally referring to a stale number more than a number that might pop up.
Perfectly understandable. Let's slide down and talk about Tampa Bay. What are you seeing on this? Because I'm seeing some -6s. I'm seeing some -5s. A couple 5.5s here. What do you
Well,
think on this one?
the -6 at Pinnacle is +07 on the -6, making the +6 minus $1.18. And, five's not your most good number. So, I mean, the +6 -18 and the 5 are pretty similar value wise. So there really isn't, even though you see the 6 and you see the 5, there really isn't much of a difference in the lines there. And I don't really have any leans on this game. There does seem to be money on Tampa Bay. This would be a case of if you had a 6 flat somewhere in a stale line, you would probably want to take a lead with that because the money is coming on Tampa. Minnesota's on a mission this year. They feel like they played so well last year and then tanked in the playoffs. So they want to come out hot. Tampa Bay, is Baker Mayfield back or is he not back? Who knows? But one thing Minnesota was good at, as good as they were last year, they were good at winning by less than a score. So I could see why the money's coming on the Tampa Bay side.
Gotcha. I was just taking a look at the line history, and I was just thinking while I had the line history open, if you right click on the Pinnacle number, you can also, if the Pinnacle number would happen to be wrong, you can go ahead and hit report bad line and have that sent directly to the programmers for them to investigate. If you run out of money at your Pinnacle account and don't want to, and you can't bet there anymore, go ahead and you can disable that line without removing the book. And then, of course, you can open the game history. That right click has a lot of different options inside of it. But right now, you're thinking if you can get a +6 at the standard -110, that's the way you would go. But currently, we don't.
That's what if I saw that right now, I would take that. Other than that, I wouldn't do anything. It's week 1. You really need to see these teams play once to get a better feel for how prepared they are and how well they're going to play together. Excuse me.
All right, let's talk about the last game that we have in the NFL by request is the Washington Commanders. I'm seeing a lot of 7s here, not just a little bit of shading on the FanDuel, a little bit of shading on the Pinnacle, but -7 looks pretty solid here. What are you seeing?
I'm seeing pretty solid 7 on this game too, and I got to tell you, this game. Washington, I wouldn't have considered at the beginning of the year a team that would be a 7-point favorite over anybody. But with Washington being 7 over this Arizona team, that's definitely telling you how bad they think this Arizona team is this year. All Arizona really has in quality, I believe, is they have a running back that's a workhorse. I think his name's Connor, and they do have a couple of decent receivers, but they don't really have a solid person to throw to them yet. And as of the other day, the Arizona coach still refused to announce who his starting quarterback is going to be for week 1. So Arizona is likely the worst team in the NFL, at least until Kyler Murray is healthy enough to play again. And then, there will be maybe a whole pivot on that team and on their lines and the way they play. As far as this game being a solid 7, if I saw a 6.5, I would be inclined to lay it. I wouldn't take 7.5 right now if it popped up, only because I have a feeling the public is more likely to come Washington than Arizona. So if
Okay.
a 6 popped up and it was the only 6, or 6.5 popped up and it was the only 6.5, I would lay the 6.5. But if other than that, I wouldn't do anything, and I'd be hesitant to take the dog because I think the public will come with the favorite there.
Yeah, and generally the favorite, the public always comes on the favorite kind of late. So, and if you look across this, it's a pretty solid 7. Even Atlantis and Baldini's in Reno, a couple great books up north in Nevada, they're agreeing with Las Vegas also and the offshores. So it looks like everybody is really on the same page here. So I guess it's time for us to talk about the most important game on the schedule. The way you do that is you right click on football. We'll get rid of the NFL. We'll grab the college game. We do not need the extra games. We do not need the added games. We do not need the props. I'll go ahead and hit save. And Nebraska right there. Game number 317. Looking like we're seeing a lot of 2.5s. And looks like Colorado Westgate might have a +3 here. Fats, what are you seeing now on the Husker game?
Okay, when we discussed this before, I talked about the difference on this game between the public and the Sharps. And the public is on Colorado. They're never going to not be on Colorado. They know what they saw last week. They think this team is the second coming of something great in Colorado, and they will and so the public's not giving up on Colorado. The public will only bet Colorado. There's very few people in the public other than you and anybody else that went to Nebraska that would consider betting Nebraska here. On the other hand, the Sharps, as I said before, there was no number that they could make the game where Nebraska wouldn't have come up as a play for them. And they're digging in on their number, and they've now taken +3 on the game, and it's down to 2.5 -17. Now, the other day I said if a 2.5 popped up, I would likely lay it. But now that a lot of 2.5s popped up, I would not press my position at 2.5. Although I would consider maybe at 2 for a small press, only because, and this is something in college that, everybody thinks the 2 is not significant so much as the 3, which is true. The 3 is much more important than the 2. But in college, because of the overtime rule now, where after I think it's 2 overtimes, they just take turns doing 2-point conversions. A game can fall 2 easily in overtime now. So whenever you can on a game that you're thinking about laying 2.5, look extra hard to try to find a 2, because that 2 could come in play if the game goes into overtime. And there's nothing more frustrating than going into overtime and you win by 2 and you lead 2.5.
I would agree.
So at this point, this is the battle of the Sharps and the squares, and I'm lined up on the square side. I'm not giving up. I lead 1.5, so I'm still okay ahead of the number. And I can't imagine that this game's not going to go back to 3. But, you can only fight City Hall so much, and then, you got to give up. So if the sharps want to keep betting it, I'm gonna respect it. I'm not gonna jump in, but I still think the public's gonna drive it back up. But we'll see what happens. I know Scotty doesn't have enough money to keep the line down at 2.5. So
Yeah, I don't think you can count on me to keep the line moved on this one. It's going to be a great football game, probably going to be game of the day. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. But I think this is about all we've got for today. Then, is there any closing thoughts you'd like to talk about with our big weekend coming up?
no, but there's a possible segment that we might release. I'm going to talk to Scotty about on Saturday night, a Saturday night for the NFL, and it's going to be what Fats thinks will move on
I like
Sunday.
it. I like it.
But well, I'm just going to tease that. There's no guarantee I'm going to do it this week, but definitely I think I'll consider doing it next week for sure. And I know Scotty will call me 8 times now if I want to do it, but
Yeah.
we'll discuss that, and maybe we'll release that on Saturday night if we do it.
That sounds like a great thing. The other thing I want to end up with, talking about here is about my proxy service. If you signed up through me on the proxy service, please make sure you get your picks in tonight. We need their picks in by 7 o'clock Pacific time tonight. And if you have any questions, you can, of course, send me a message or contact me any way that you normally do. And I think that'll be it for the show today. Fats, I really appreciate you spending the time with us and sharing your wisdom. And we'll definitely be in touch probably within the hour to talk about the Saturday night show. So good luck to everybody this weekend and go Big Red.